We have, tonight we have 44 images, and I'll mention the next competition that's in September, that's the 23rd. The theme is trees, but if you don't have any tree images that you really want to put in competition, you could submit any other image. We don't want people to go out and expose themselves. No streaking, but we, but so you won't get docked or lower score or anything if you do not comport with the theme. So uh, trees does not include bushes. It does not include carved trees or trees made into art, manufactured trees, but bonsai is okay. That's fine. Just so we could tell it's a tree. Our judge tonight is Jeff Johnson. Our regular judge who was scheduled for tonight had some family medical issues, and Jeff has graciously accepted my arm twisting to help out. He was a judge earlier this year, and thank you very much, JJ, for
Sure.
doing it tonight. I understand you're in Illinois now. So I'll mention JJ has judged for us and has presented programs. He's a master photographer and a certified judge, high qualifications. We're really fortunate to have Jeff judging our images. Jeff, what are you doing now with all this COVID problem going on?
Just ignoring it.
Business.
I don't bother with it. Yes, it's been a trying time for all of us. Throwing my 2 cents in there. I've had some personal medical issues. I had a stroke in April that I'm still recovering from, and then in the middle of all that, I lost my mother, 91-year-old mother. So it's been, add that to all the other fun things. So I'm in Illinois right now, just closing up her estate and her house and things. So it's a nice break here to sit and see all you guys again and spend the evening with you and just kind of throw my thoughts about photography at you through your imagery. I always enjoy seeing what you guys have to photograph and what you offer in terms of print. So this will be fun for me. Nice little break from all the family matters that are happening. So
you still doing any workshops?
Well, of course, this summer, obviously, we've had to. I've gone and planned some, and of course, we've had to put them off the last minute. I've gone a couple of places and shot myself, and I do have a workshop planned in the end of October. If you go to the soulroadtrips.com, you'll see it's my autumn in New England, and I've got 3 people already signed up for it and a couple more talking about it, and love to have you guys join me. We're going to fly into Boston and make the tour up through Bahaba and back across Vermont and New Hampshire and down through New York and back to Boston in the fall. And I don't know if you've ever been through that way. It's just stunning. So I'm planning on it happening. Of course, we'll play it by ear and be smart about it, but I want to go. So if any of you guys want to join me, please check out soulroadtrips.com. And of course, next year we're working on some new trips. I actually am trying to put together a West Coast tour where I would go out there and I'm just going to tour the coast from San Diego to Astoria, Washington, and have people come and join me for 3-day workshops at all kinds of different places. So I'll keep you posted on those fun things. Or you can come out and we'll shoot at some national park or sequoias or whatever for a 3-day workshop, just small groups all along that tour. That I'm looking forward to that. Still planning on that happening, so we'll see. A lot of it's been kind of pushed back, as you know, from this year. So
I take it your stroke you're talking, it wasn't a stroke of good luck, huh?
Well, you know what? You guys know me. I'm not. Nothing gets me down. I've certainly turned it into some positive, but it has slowed me down for a little bit. Um, but I've got a lot of video tutorials I'm working on. I'm going to be launching that site hopefully the next month or so. It's taking a lot longer than I thought, but I have a lot of online tutorial things. So that's nice to see y'all. Thanks for coming out tonight. Let's see your beautiful work.
I might announce, be sure everybody, you mute yourselves. I usually announce the high score winners, and at that time, those winners can unmute themselves. You can hit the space bar so you can give us some information about your photo, where you took it, and some background so we can learn a little bit from you too.
Yeah, that's always fun to hear. I appreciate that. Yeah, Justin, welcome. I think this is one of my favorite groups to work with and judge for. The imagery is always good, and lots of good folks who would or like to share with their knowledge and ideas. So, good choice.
This will be the 5.6. This is titled Hen Galaxy.
All right. First of all, I think that's a pretty awesome title for this. It gives us the feeling of being this galaxy of leaves, and I think that the color harmonies in here is quite unique for a plant like this. We go from cool tones to warm tones. I love the placement of your center, the focal point of the image not being dead center. It kind of gives us room to grow, so to speak, from the lower left corner as it fans out into the leaves. Shallow depth of field is very cool. I always enjoy that. It gives us a little bit of a different feel. Instead of everything being sharp, it allows us to concentrate more on a certain area. Again, nice placement. If we use a rule of thirds here, we got the center of the cactus kind of in that lower third, so it's a nice placement, nice fanning of the leaves. And I also like that you've pretty much just given us the plant and not a lot of not necessary stuff around the plant. So it's very, very nicely done. I'll give this an 8.
Can you see some improvements that could be made?
One thing that I do see is, and this is just kind of a speculation thing. The sharpest point is about on the second row of leaves down from the top, and it looks like the center cluster is not as sharp. Minor point, but I think where that sharpest area is, you can really see the hairs on the edge of the leaves on that second row from the top, and the top row tends to naturally draw the eye to the sharpest part of the scene. Again, composition, color harmony, the placement, everything is good. But if that center part of the plant was the sharpest part of it, I think that would probably have grown in score. So,
An 8, correct?
yes, sir.
Dancing in the Garden.
Again, another nice title. Those of you who have sat in with me before and I've judged, titles, stories are very big to me. I think that really brings a whole new realm to the image instead of just calling it the fountain or in the park kind of thing. But the dancing part of it really makes your mind go off into the surreal, if you will, to give the whole scene a little bit more of a story. And a lot of times you guys have heard me say don't put stuff right in the middle, but in this case this works because the fountain really takes up your concentration. The supporting elements of the bushes and the green all around it really makes the fountain stand out. And I think the placement, the slower shutter speed, and what I think is kind of cool is that little bit of that orangey glow behind. Looks like probably sunlight or something hitting the hill. I'm not sure what that is, but it's just really an interesting aspect to this sort of thing. Again, I think it is just very well handled, and I'll give this an 8 as well.
Terry Hanford's the only one who submitted images. Maybe we could ask him about this dancing in the garden. Terry, are you here?
I am, thanks. Yeah, this is a garden in Kanazawa, Japan. Uh, it's pretty neat. The garden opens up early for photographers, so
Nice.
during the day, this gets very busy, but I was there practically by myself. And this actually, and I guess it was hard to represent, but the light, that's actually sunlight dancing on the water drops in the middle of the fountain.
Okay.
It was a very magical moment.
Yeah.
But I guess it was hard to process in a way to show exactly that was in the fountain rather than behind it.
Okay. Nice capture though. Good eye. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we look for when we're out shooting and hoping to find those unique scenes that maybe it happens just in a split moment. But nice capture.
Good. Thank you, Terry. Okay, now we go into F8. Blue heron.
Yeah, blue herons are one of my favorite birds. I think this is a great capture, a nice sharp image. You get some great detail, the bird's feathers. You can see the eyes nice and clearly. Even against the sky, I like that it's a little more on the gray side than just blown out white like can happen so well. It's hard sometimes to get that exposure of your foreground with a bright sky, but you've done this very well. And you know, having the trees in front of them a little bit shows them in their habitat, if you will. I think the placement is kind of good. The one bird is a little taller than the other. That just makes it a little bit more pleasing to the eye to go on diagonals as opposed to horizontals. Yeah, I'll give this an 8 as well. I think again, just a really good capture, good eye for what was happening there.
You see where it could be improved?
Well, it's a tough one because the sky does pull our attention away from the birds. But I know in those situations you are, you know, in a situation where you kind of have to get what you can get and take what take the picture when you can. You know, had there been an opportunity to, this is a lot of speculation, get higher if you can, or I see green trees on the right, move over to the left and put the trees back, and then the birds would stand out a little more because our eye goes to the brightest part of a scene. But what works here is that, like I said, the sky's got a gray cast to it. The birds have that warm gray tone to them, so it's very coordinated in colors. I mean, I'll give you compliments on that, to coordinate the birds' color with the sky and the trees.
Fading images.
Again, a good perspective. I like that you've done an oblique perspective here, a 3/4 into the corner of the building, and not just into the end where the fading posters and advertisements are. So it gives us some depth to the image. The color harmony here is beautiful. We have the warmth of the wood and the brick, and then the blue sky. And again, repeating that blue in the windows on the lower left, the window in the very middle, and then the blue sky lets our eyes travel from front to back. Again, shooting into the corner of the building gives us some diagonal perspective that allows our eyes to travel around the scene nicely. I like that it's also kind of subdued in the tones of the old signs because it gives us that very old feeling of these signs back in their era. So I'm going to give this a 9. I really like this.
Kochum, Germany, on the Mosel River.
Okay. Nice reflection.
I messed up the pronunciation of the city. Kochum. Yeah.
That's right. The maker will send you an email later and correct you. I love this reflection. Also like, too, that you've raised it just a little bit above. You know, there's that conversation. Anytime you do a reflection, you put the horizon in the middle, somebody's going to tell you, they cut it in half. I mean, that happens with reflections, but this is good placement. We have not a lot of great movement from left to right as the perspective gets the buildings a little smaller. The whole subject matter of these old buildings is very cool. The one little darker brick building with the black roof on the left really gives us a good starting place, and then being that the rest of the scene is very light. I do feel that it could have been a little more guts to it. It's the whites, the light colors tend to be very washed out. I feel like it could have been just a little bit deeper in tones and in the whites, because I look like the fronts of the buildings, I can't quite see detail in all of the whites or even the yellow there. It's just a little too light in tone. I think it could have been the density of at least the top half of the image, I think would have benefited had it been just a little bit, maybe a stop darker in your Photoshop work. But because of that, I'll give this a 7.
Okay, that's the end of the F8. We have a 9, Fading Images by Al Schoenagel. Are you here, Al?
I am. Did you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, go ahead and tell us something about this.
Well, a couple of vacations ago, a couple of years ago, we were in some of the western towns, and I noticed these old painted signs that were just fading into oblivion. This was actually taken in Spokane, Washington. And so then I made it a point to start capturing these painted old advertisement things so that at least somebody doesn't let them go into history. And this one really got me. It was the Coca-Cola, and then those yellows on the front, which was, a whole haphazard bunch of stuff. And so I got across the street and got on, just as you said, got onto this corner so I could get the reflection of the sky in those windows as well. So that's the story about it.
Nice eye. Good job. I really appreciate this kind of an imagery.
Thanks, Al.
You're welcome.
We'll go into F11 now. Let's see, is this Fade Away? Fade Away by Fade Away. Black and white.
Okay. Again, compliments to the maker on seeing this. This is just a unique perspective. I guess I'm not sure what it is. It doesn't matter if it's the roof of a building or a marquee or that kind of thing. But I like the perspective of it. I love that you've chosen to let the leading line come in from the lower right and go up to around to the upper right. It's just a nice, pleasing concept. The angle it's a nice balance. While it's a kind of an asymmetrical feeling, it has a lot of nice balance to it. I do feel like the blacks could be, they're not black enough. Now, the reason I hesitate is because, I calibrate my monitor all the time, but you know how that goes doing this digital stuff. And because of that, the background seems just a little weak. So the whites, or the brightest part of the scene, also seems a little weak. Again, saying that, I can't know if it's my monitor or the projection, but that's just something to look for. I think we could have a little more snap in this. At the contrast, we're a little stronger. But your exposure's right on. Right on through as far as getting detail in between each one of these things. And so, but I will give it an 8 because of the creativity and the the capture that you've done here. That's the word I'm searching for.
Pure muscle power.
Terrible.
Okay. I don't know where you were, but man, what a great capture this is.
Mhm.
To be able to look at the action here. I mean, you got him in mid-stroke, so to speak. The crashing waves around him going to swallow him up, but he's the determination on his face to get through this. The wall of wave behind him and splashing around. I mean, it's action-packed. I like the composition. You've got him off just a little bit to the right, so we've got some room to move. The thing that's kind of holding me back a little bit is the vignette is a little overdone. The corners are just a little bit uncomfortable feeling because they're just a little bit, again, my feeling with the vignette, I love vignettes, but I think it needs to be a softer transition and less obvious. So it's almost, the corner's darker or not. That's kind of how I look at it. These just seem a little bit, it gives us too much of a keyhole feeling. I also feel like the tonal range is quite flat. I know you've got obviously out in bright connection. Larry, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you faded a little bit for.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I keep getting a message that says my internet connection is unstable, so I apologize for that.
You're talking about the vignetting.
Yeah, the vignette, I think the vignette is a little strong. I think the contrast is a little flat. The highlights of the water, and if you're out in the bright sunlight, I know this is a tough one to not just get a bunch of blown out highlights. I feel like there's a happy medium there between blown out highlights and a little brighter whites. So because of all that, I'll give this a 7.
See, transparent lady.
Well, this is an awesome title. I like this. I love these kind of reflections and things that billboards that reflect in windows and so on and so forth. And what's kind of cool is that we do see a little bit of the buildings behind the photographer, but yet the face still is prominent, and yet we have all these partitions of these windows. But actually, I see it, and I think it looks like more like a gate or a fencing we're looking through. Regardless of what it is, it's done very well because each component doesn't overshadow the next one. They all work together in a very creative form. I don't know that you could have sat down and thought this one out really any better. It just has this very surreal feeling, but yet very much an art form. Doesn't just look strange. It's very creative. The title is very, very nicely done. I will give this a 10. I like this.
Lady in blue.
Well, first of all, my compliments to you for finding a beautiful subject. That always helps. Nice portrait. I like the comfortable feeling. The pose is very casual. You had a little bit of a challenge here with the background being a little brighter, but you've handled it very well in the exposure, so it's not an obvious blowout in the background or too shadow. The eyes look nice and bright and brilliant. Obviously, she's got a good expression. The pose, I like how her knee has come up across the leg. That's a nice, very feminine pose. I would just be a little careful when you point fingers towards the camera. They look short. It's a technique called foreshortening. So fingers and arms and legs, as a general rule, should not point to the camera. They just look awkward. So the brain has a little trouble with, you look at her left arm, camera right, because of the forearm and the hand coming right to the camera, that arm looks a lot shorter than the other arm. And leaning on a hand and such with people is always very awkward, and you've handled that well. Her arm looks natural enough, that the arm she's leaning on. I would have maybe just a suggestion the next time you do a pose like this, back the camera up a little bit, take the left hand, camera right, the bracelet, and run that down her shin and let that arm stretch out. Then you got a nice triangle to her arms and her hands, so your eyes take you from her face down to the hands and back, but that right arm would be a little bit more comfortable. Good color tone, skin tone looks great. Even the background rocks, you've handled that well. So I will give this an 8.
Out of here.
Out of here? That's cool.
No.
Again, another great title that really conjures up a feeling of a story. And those of you who have been around with me many times, you know that I always like to inject a story in the scene, whether it's your own or you conjure something up in the viewer's mind. So this does that. This gives us that feeling of walking down this path. Otherwise, obviously, people have been there before with a couple of bikes. There's somebody leaving the background of the scene. It's got good movement. The color harmonies to this are very cool. The light at the top is a tough one to handle, but even as bright as it is, it looks natural. But then going into the warm tones underneath the arch, just a very cool piece. I want to give this a 9. Good eye there.
Fence warp.
Fence warp, that's cool. Again, nice eye. You know, we to see pieces like this in just a fence, if you will. Again, my compliments to the maker, because just being able to compose, this is almost a painting and a feeling. With look at all the tones and the different how the wood has totally deteriorated in the upper left and lower left. Over in the bottom right, it has this nice strong feeling of the cross pieces. I'm glad that you put the intersection of them down towards the bottom third and not in the middle, because it just gives us, it's more comfortable to view an image like this. If you were to put that intersection of those horizontal and vertical lines are very powerful. You put that in the middle, even the shadow and highlight really peruse and feel like there's some depth, and you can almost reach out and get a splinter from this fence. So I like this art piece very much. I'll give this a 9.
Could you suggest any improvement on that one? Or?
Not really. I mean, to me, I would always want to know what it looks like in black and white. Not necessarily that that's an improvement. It's just a different way of looking at it. I don't know. I maybe would have made it a little better.
bit, JJ.
The only thing I was going to say is something like this. I may have made it a little bit deeper, darker in density, but I'm being real picky. And then black and white was the other thing that I said. I always look at black and white. I bet it would have been pretty cool in black and white too. But again, those aren't necessarily better. They're just different. Good job.
Okay. Fire in the sky.
Very cool. Yeah, I love the depth that this has. You know, it's a sad thing. We get beautiful skies and beautiful tones in the mountains, but it's all because the earth is on fire. So it's quite a mixed feeling. But I love the step feeling of the densities of the 3 layers of earth into the sky, and it kind of has the same kind of feeling of different densities up there to give us a step through this whole scene. I might have, again, just me, I might have cropped up from the bottom, maybe halfway into that first shade of gray, bringing our horizon line down more. Again, personal preference there, but because there's enough ground, we kind of are getting that mountain to the middle of the horizon. Sorry, the middle of the scene. So I'd like to lower that a little bit. So that would be my suggestion, make it longer and narrower. I'm looking at it too, cropping with my hands. I'll bet you could even crop up on the bottom, like I said, about halfway into the darkest gray, crop down from the top just above the darkest area of the sky, and you'd have one heck of a very cool, long 3-to-1, 4-to-1 ratio panorama that might just be very cool. Anyways, having said that, I'm going to give this a 9. I think it's great capture, good eye. It's very simple. That's what I like about it. It's very striking.
Early morning stroll.
Again, another good story here with that title, and a kind of a tough scene to capture with the bright sunlight and the shadows, but you've handled that very well. We've got good detail throughout. I like the street, how it's coming kind of in from the left and winding back to the right, takes us out of scene. And the jogger, stroller, is out there all by himself, is very cool. I'll give this an 8.
What, yeah, how would you suggest improving it?
Minor thing, but I maybe would crop down from the top. The red roof in the middle of the scene at the top, it goes on to the buildings behind it. Because those buildings are lighter than a lot of the scene, it tends to pull me up that way. So if the crop came down just into the top of that red roof, I think that would keep the eye stronger on the subject, on the gentleman. Just to the maker, just take this home and open it up in Photoshop and just crop it down, see what you think, if that is true or not. Again, that's my opinion.
The hummingbird hover.
It's kind of like we've created a new dance here. It's kind of showing off. Good capture though, too, by the way. Lots of great colors. Nice sharp image. That's always a tough one. And a lot of times too, we can catch the hummingbird, but we lose the wings because they're going so fast. So good choice of exposure, shutter speed to be able to get some wing in there, so it looks like you have a complete bird. I like that he's kind of your title with hovering, because he is kind of floating up above the flowers. A couple little things that I'll just throw at you that when I look at competition images, whether it's mine or helping people out or doing a competition judging like this, things that draw my eye that don't help tell the story. There's a little white spot on the breast of the bird, actually in the gray, and then also in the white around the collar. There's a little bit of white that goes into black. I might have toned those down or taken them out totally. And then down at the bottom, the purple flower that's just crossing the horizon line of the border there, on about the middle of the frame. Minor things, I know. But anytime something is on your image, it's going to attract attention. Good or bad,
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? We're losing you a little bit, JJ.
Oh, no. Okay. Down at the bottom, there's a purple flower that's just right at the horizon, or right at the edge of the image, all by itself there. And it pulls my eye down there unnecessarily. Anytime something hits the border of your image, look at it and determine if it's helping or hindering. If it's pulling your eye away from the subject and not helping to tell the story, get rid of it. And I don't know if you heard this or not, there's a white spot on the stomach of the bird that's pulling my attention unnecessarily. I'd get rid of that too. Oh, you want to score?
Oh, score. Oh, a detail.
8. Give it an 8. I like it. Minor details.
Bryce, it snowed last night.
Okay. Very good capture. I've stood in scenes like this where you get that morning shadow in the foreground, and you have the bright sky, but you've handled it very well. The sky looks very good. The clouds are not blown out. I like the sun coming through, hitting a little bit towards the background. The foreground's a little bit in shadow. Good colors. I would like to have seen the colors be just a little bit deeper in tone. I feel it's a little washed out. And I know it's a judgment call with those red rocks and green trees, but I can tell you why. The snow looks awfully gray in the foreground. And I think that's a judgment that you can use to boost. Could be a little more contrast, maybe a little bit more saturation, but the snow just doesn't look natural like it could be. So because of that, I'll give it a 7.
The kids are all right.
Tough capture here because you got bright sunlight, but done very well. I like that the little guy in the front is just a little sharper, stands up more. His coat's a little whiter in his face, where the guy behind him is a little more weathered. So they're separated, because sometimes when you get items, objects, whatever subject matter overlapping, you tend to lose one into the other. But this worked out pretty well for you. I like that he's even looks like he's maybe kind of singing to us. Nice strong composition. I like that you've come in tight with it. The rocks are nice, supporting, literally supporting the guys, but they don't take over. There's a lot of color and texture and contrast in the rocks, but they really don't take over. So done very well. I'll give this one a 9.
Nature's creation.
What just a lovely capture here. You have a mountain in front of you of stone, and you have a mountain in the sky of cloud. Tough exposure from shadows into the front of this rock formation, and then of course the brightness of the clouds back there. This looks like a Badlands thing, but the nice color harmonies between the red of the rocks and the blue of the sky, that warm tone from sunset. One thing that hits me, and it hit me pretty hard, the horizon line is not straight, and that kind of, to me, is kind of a no-no when you've got a scene like this. It just, I don't know if the rock's going to slide off to the left or the, or not really, but that's just one thing that you need to just watch, is make sure that horizon line is straight, horizontal, if it's in a situation like this. But I love the repetition of patterns here, the shape of the mountain, the shape of the clouds, the color harmony is done very nicely. It's a nice soft light, but boy, that horizon, just that's a hard one for me. I'm going to give this a 7 because of that.
A bluebird.
Good eye here. I like always love reflections. It gives you, just a lot to look at, even though it's the same image duplicated. It's a totally different world. I like the separation, a little bit of road in between there. The image exposure is handled very nicely. You can see the reflection is just a hair darker, which is a natural thing. Very creative. No, but I like this capture because it gives us a nice story. We've all know the bluebird. We've all been there and seen it. The reflection is done very nicely, but still has 2 separate stories in it. I would like to have seen just a little bit more space. I do feel it's a little bit cramped. The on both top and bottom are almost at the border. The lamppost on the left is almost at the border. It would be a minor thing, but if you were one big step back, 3 more feet backwards, or it might have been just a little bit more comfortable. And having said that, I will give this an 8. I think it's very well captured.
The waterfall.
Well, I was going to say good flow here, and I didn't mean that to be a pun, but I will use it there. No, it gives us a good feeling of the water coming down from the waterfall and through the rocks and coming out towards us at the bottom of the image. So it gives us some nice motion. The tree on the left is a nice foreground addition without taking over. It's there, it's obvious in the foreground, but it does blend with the background just enough.
Well, we're losing you,
Keeping
Jeff.
us from seeing the waterfall.
We lost you. for a couple seconds.
Okay. What I was saying was that I think I like this tree on the left here. It's a nice addition in the foreground. It's not too much. It doesn't take away from the image. It blends. It's obvious that it's in front, but it does blend with the background enough to still let us see the waterfall. I feel like the image could be just a little bit deeper in tone. The rocks seem a little washed out. When you get lower light levels like this, your colors are more saturated. I think that the red in the rocks could have been pushed a little bit more, very slightly, just enough, but the rocks seem just a little bit, and the blue of the water seemed just a little bit faded. But I do like the whole composition, like the feeling. I can hear the water running. That's always a good thing. And the one other thing I'll say, that the sky in the upper left there is what we would refer to as a light trap. That brightness pulls my eye up there unnecessarily. Not that you need to cut it down more. I like where it's cropped, but maybe think about adding some tree into that sky, both that big bright spot, and then over to the left there's another spot in between the branches of this foreground tree. Other than that, I would give this an 8. I think it's done very well.
Shadow play.
Very creative. Definitely like this title. It gives us a feeling like these statues are like the guy in front's trying to hide, trying to get away. But look at the shadows. I mean, look at the shadow on the wall of the statue that's standing upright in the background. Look at the light coming through the windows. It's a very excellent title, excellent story. Again, one of the things I mentioned in another image, we have nice straight lines on the left, but if you look at the lines on the right, we have just a little bit of the column right behind the one subject that's standing erect. It's not straight. Little things like that tend to pull your eye away from the subject matter. But I think the whole story is done very well. The shadow play, the whole exposure is handled very nicely for your title. And I love the vision that you have here. Good play between the subjects of the 3 statues. So I'm going to give this a 9. Very good capture, very good creativity.
Sunrise at Newble Lighthouse.
Yeah, very pretty capture. Nice catch with the color of the clouds in the water in the foreground. That's always a real plus when we can do something like that. Like that a lot, especially the boldness of the pinks over to the left. It goes into the soft grays on the right. Nice composition. I like how the water comes. We can see the whole puddle in the foreground, and the lighthouse is still standing strong in the middle up there. Would like to have seen the whites of the lighthouse just a little bit bolder. I know it's a low light level, but I think that would have been just, if the lighthouse was just a little more prominent in color tone, not size, just in a little bit more white, I think it would have made just a little bit better presentation. Overall, I think it's done very well. I like the composition. I like where you've put the horizon line, and the magnifying glass there is nice right above the lamppost too. I will give this a 9. I think this is a very, very good capture.
Table for 1.
This is cool, right up my alley here. I think this creative eye here is right on. The title definitely says one person. It feels one very lonely, very isolated. The desolation of the place. But look at the color harmony throughout. I mean, it goes from warms to cool tones. The red of the chair, there's some red in the wall in the back, and yellows, golds more. But the greens and the blues, I like that we've got a wide lens going on here. The shadows are soft. Just a lot of great movement. Even the logs in the ceiling just give us some support and movement through, and allow the eye to wander back. And we keep coming back to the front of the table where it's light, and the red chair. This is an outstanding image. I'm going to give this one a 10. I think it's handled very nice.
Misty morning on the Irrawaddy River.
Yes, it is. Again, good. I like the placement of the subject, the boatsman being just off center to the left, so it gives him some direction to go instead of putting him in the middle. I like the feel of the the land right behind him, and then the trees in the distance that are softer. Nice feeling of movement. I like even the color tones. It's kind of a blue gold, kind of a duotone feeling. I might suggest, again, this is not to change the score. I'll give you a score first. I would give this an 8. But look at this and crop it up and down the top. The long horizontal, my favorite, but I think if you were to bring up the bottom, put that boat on that bottom third, bring down the sky just above the trees, I think you'd have a really powerful panorama feeling. But as it sits, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not scoring against that. I was just a suggestion for something different. No, I will give it an 8 for the view and the creativity.
Don't mess with our nest.
Good title. Great movement here. Great play between all 4 of the birds. The guy, the probably mama in the nest is yelling at the rest of them. The open beak there looks good. I like the position of the branch coming out of where you did from the bottom right there. Even the tones are very subdued. I see a vignette here that is just catching my eye too much. I'd like to see it just a little softer, maybe a little more gradation. Because of the way it is, it just pulls my eye out to those corners, which is why we put a vignette on there, is to not have that happen. But I'll give this a 7 for the presentation.
That's the end of the F11. We have 2 10s.
Okay.
We could take a look at. That's a Transparent Lady by Susan P. Hafke. Is Susan here tonight?
Yes, I am. This was a mesh screen in a multi-story parking lot in downtown Denver. And I was just coming from an art exhibit at the art museum and got into my car and looked around and saw this screen in this parking lot and took out my iPhone.
Well, thank you for recording it and sharing it with us, because that is just very creative. I like your eye. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
The other is Table for One by Dave Hull.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you very much for your comments.
Sure.
This is a little town or little miner's cabin that was to the west of Gardner, Colorado, just almost on the flanks of the Senda de Cristos. And I had taken this, I had noticed this driving by, and then I got a little further up the road and I saw some people on a ranch, and I asked them if it would be possible to go inside this. And they didn't have any problem, but I just didn't want to kind of trespass in this little
good.
town. And so I felt comfortable with that. The interesting thing, this is the second time that I was there, because the first time I was there, if I couldn't, with my wide angle lens, it wasn't wide enough. So I went back to Englewood Camera, rented a lens, drove down again, and I didn't ask permission the second time, but it allowed me to, my back was up against the wall, literally. And so I was able to get in what I wanted to get in. I struggled with this for years, because that window that you see let in, the back, there was some brush outside or whatever, but it was so light that my eye kept going away from the table and the chair into that. So I just basically cloned, some logs into the window and kind of kept the eye into the table and the chair.
Well done. Very well done. The only thing that's wrong with this, if I may say, in the bottom right, it should say Jeff Johnson. Then it would be okay.
Well, I appreciate that.
Nice work.
That means a lot.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Now we're into F16. This is called Noxious Elegance.
Great title. I love the contradiction, the play on words. Really makes our mind wonder what exactly can happen either way here. But this is awesome. A beautiful art piece, great detail. I mean, you can none of the leaves. That's not the right word, but the leaves, for lack of better terms. None of those get lost in the thistle head. The grouping, we got three nice groups here that give us a nice balance. Different heights. Really let your eye move all. It's a great art piece. But man, look at the edge of each of the center of the flowers. You can see them very clearly, either against another one or against the sky. Just handled very nicely. I'll give this a 10. I like it. And I like that you went black and white with it too.
Nelson.
Wow. This is powerful. Love the tones of the skin. Very leathery and rough and honest. The crossed arms is great. Honest is the best word I can come up with. This just look right into the eyes. You can see right into this old fella's soul. It's sharp. It's crisp. There's beautiful detail. The exposure's right on. I like the black background. Again, it's a 10.
Jeff,
Go ahead.
we lost after sharp and crisp.
Oh, really? Oh.
Nelson.
That's all right. So yeah, no, it was.
I could hear him.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Did you clean out your ears, Larry, this morning? Maybe it's just. Sorry.
What?
Do you want to go back to that one? Does everybody need to go back to that one, or? I did give it a 10.
Oh, okay.
It's a phenomenal portrait. Very honest, very truthful. You can't pull away from his eyes. Great detail. I love the black background. You wouldn't lose him in the background. It's done very nicely. Outstanding.
This is lines and angles.
This is very cool too. I like this a lot. You guys are making this tough, man. You're all good stuff here in this group. What a great capture. It's just, we walk over this stuff. If it's the, parking angles or painting the street or whatever, we walk by this stuff all the time and don't even look at it as art. But even how the light is hitting the intersection on the upper left there, fades down to darker golds, but the angles of the lines make it very pleasing to just let your eye wander around the yellow and occasionally into the black, and then the little bits of red that looks like it's probably leaves or petals or something just really sparkle the whole composition. I don't know how I can not give this a 10. This is just one of those that somebody saw something that's not photogenic or creative art and they've made it that. So good job.
Colorado dunes.
Yeah, baby. We love the dunes. Yeah, again, just looking around, I love the whole feel of this. So many times we see a picture of the dunes, and occasionally there'll be a piece of wood in it, but you've captured nicely some of the drift that's out there. Even the placement of the image, of the logs coming in from the lower left, and then not letting them cross up or poke up into the dunes of the mountain. The sky with some clouds in it. It's just a nice balance throughout. I'll give this an 8.
Invasive beauty.
Nice light on this. I like that we have just a very soft end of the day or morning kind of a feeling. There's a nice glow, golden glow to the leaves. It's always hard to photograph flowers like this, especially with bigger leaves, as to where to crop it and what to include and what to cut out. And I think you've made a really good choice here. Obviously, it's hard to you pull back to get all the leaves, and your flower is going to be a little tiny dot in the picture. Nice sharpness in the foreground here. It kind of falls off to the background, which I like that. Selective focus. It makes the flower stand out a lot more. That was a good choice. Color harmony with the pink and the green. You can't go wrong with that. Nice job there. I'll give this a 9.
Cosmos on a field of green.
Yes, it is. Beautiful flower. Almost looks like a painting. Look at the strokes in the petals and even in the green. It has a feeling like that somebody's come along with a paintbrush here. Mother Nature, I guess, was the painter, right? Color harmony, fantastic. The pink against the green, and then the yellow stands out. The deeper fuchsia circle around the yellow is a nice touch the flowers do for us to make this really stand out. I like the square format. Even the little black lip you put around it has just made this quite a nice presentation. I'll give this a 9.
Donnie Tribesman, West Papua.
Very nicely done. The intensity in his expression is what I think really makes this obviously a different look than what we're used to as Americans, but everything about this, the exposure, the tone of the skin, his beard. Did you lose me again, or am I good? I just got it.
You're doing good.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Even the pose is really interesting. It fits this gentleman here with his hands like that. I don't know if he's just got his fist clenched or if he's holding something, but it works very nicely how the light just falls off into his back shoulder. The feathers are still visible, but they don't take over. And you still go back to his face. All of the interesting colors and textures, and you still go back to his face. I'm afraid I'm going to have to give this a 10. You guys are good.
So it's right, angry puppy. Is that right, Bob? Yep, angry puppy.
Okay. Well, I apologize if there's a formation in the clouds of an angry puppy. I'm not seeing it. I do see a good capture of, with all the lightning, and look at the depth in the sky and the clouds, the different tones of color. Yeah, sorry, I don't see an angry puppy, so I'm not making a connection there. I like the how you've done the horizon line, the tree line, kind of emulates the sky, clouds. The white border tends to, I don't feel that works the best. White draws the eye always, and I know we have a lot of that flies in the face of fine art presentations and galleries with white mats and such, but put a black frame around this or a darker brown tone like the clouds, and all of a sudden your lightning will just stand out like crazy. But I mean, what a wonderful capture of being in the right place. Quick trigger finger. I'll give this an 8.
Longhorn at Devil's Tower.
Yes, it is. I like the feeling here. It's not a picture that you would normally see. Hopefully you used a long lens to get this nice close feeling of the longhorn, or at least unless you're fast and I didn't see you. But I like the composition of the animal right here in front. We can see the horns nicely, and then the Devil's Tower in the background. I get the feeling that the whole image is tipped to the left a little bit. I realize the horizon line kind of runs uphill to the right, but I feel like the whole picture is leaning to the left a little bit. Devil's Tower feels like it's leaning. And I'm not sure of the color cast that I'm seeing. The green in the tower itself, the green in the horns, and the green in the skin of the animal. I'm just, that doesn't feel like a normal feeling there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but those things just kind of hold me back from going higher. But I will give this a 7 because of that.
Flying banana profile.
Very creative titles tonight. Good job. Yeah, great profile. Nice and crisp. You can see look at the detail on the feathers and the eye. Colors stand out nicely. Composition is very simple, but I like this. Very strong. I would love to have seen it just a little bit darker, a little deeper in density. I think the color tones and the blacks of the charcoals there, the feathers would have held up to go maybe another stop darker in just printing, not necessarily in the exposure in the camera, but when you make the image in Photoshop or Lightroom. I think if you had gone a little bit darker, the grays would have had a little more punch. The yellow in the beak would have been just a little bit richer, feeling the pinkish cast around the eyes. They just seem a little washed out. Really fine tuning is all I'm suggesting, but try it again. Put it back in here and larger, make it just a little darker, see what you get. But because of that, I'll give it an 8.
Lunch with a friend.
That's pretty good. Just a really, really nice eye. I mean, this is one that, gosh, you could see this in posters and a magazine. It's just, I mean, look at the crispness of it. The color harmony is beautiful. I like that the background has got a nice tone to it, but it's not, there's nothing in the background to take away from the butterfly getting some lunch here and the little guy flying up above. You can see the wings a little bit of the fella up high. Just really a nice capture. I mean, it was nothing against anything, but how the hell do you do this? Just so crisp and colorful and sharp. Man, I just love this. This is a 10. Good job.
Delicate arch.
Again, nice balance here. I'm usually not one to go and add a flash to, again, it's just my preference, nothing good or bad about it. I don't do this, so I respect when somebody does a nice job. And this is a good balance. I mean, we've got the Milky Way standing out. We've got the nice cluster there. And the balance of the light on the arch works with this. Sometimes you see it, it doesn't work. So I think if you handle it real well. Good composition. Just a really nice cap all over. I'll give this a 9. Very nice.
Spiral.
Yes, it is. Yeah, this is one of my favorite types of flower images, is when you see the spiral, see the movement through the leaves, the petals. Always hard to know where to crop and where to cut it, but I think this is done very nicely. We got 3 nice leaf tips in here that give us some direction, of course, with the spiral of the petals. It's just very nicely done. I'm not finding a sharpness to it, though. It just seems to be soft all over. Again, I'll have to say that's what we get with computer competitions anymore, unfortunately. But as far as an art piece, it's just absolutely beautiful. good flow. I love the purples, the tones, and against the black. I mean, this could hang on the wall as a painting, and I think you'd sell it. I'll give this a 9. Very nicely done.
Monumental composition.
Again, another great title. You guys are thinking out of the box. I like that. Composition's strong. I like just the road bringing us through. You've got this nice, very, very lovely tree in front of the rock formations. Good placement. I like the placement of the one in the background in the middle of the fork of the tree, and a little bit lighter, draws your eye into there. However, I'm having a little issue with I'm not sure exactly what it is, but the sky has been darkened, and I'm seeing a highlight around the branches of the tree and around the edge of the rock formations, which just doesn't feel like a natural feeling. Even the tone of the red in the clay and the soil, just, it doesn't feel natural. I think this has just been overworked a little bit. I'm sorry to say. I love the composition and the whole feeling. Technically, it's just kind of, I think I have to say it's been overworked a little bit. I'm sorry to say. But you know, this image, I would maybe play with it again a little bit more, and it just looks a little overworked, I think is where I'm going with that. Sorry to say. But because of that, I'll give this a 7.
New Mexico Rural Chapel.
Very simple composition. A lot of times those are very powerful. Color harmony, I mean, it's very simple, but it's very strong. The placement of the cross in front of the door is nice. I love the wall being just cracked and old, and then nice choice of key line around it. Minor thing, the door seems a little tipped. You know, maybe that's just goes with the age feeling, but it does pull my eye towards that fact as opposed to letting it just be, yeah, again, it's kind of a minor thing, but it does pull my eye away from the theme and to see this tipped door. Maybe it is, but sometimes in composition we need to either straighten it or play it up more. So it's kind of right on that border that it's drawing attention more than I think you would want it to, is what I'm saying. I love the theme. I love the feel of it. The tones are so subtle and nice. And I think just because of that door being a little tipped, it's pulling me away from the theme. So I'm gonna go with a 9, just because of that.
Autumn Dream.
Very, very nicely composed. I love the kind of the circle feeling of the water coming up to the edge of the shore. The reflection, excuse me, of the trees are as confusing and busy as they can be. I like how you've kind of, they're balanced on both sides. We can go right to the middle into the sky. Just a really nice color art piece. Again, the white mat, I think, pulls me away from it, which I'm not thrilled about. But I think overall we'll give it an 8.
Oh dear.
Nice capture. I always love the ears on these mule deer. Cue capture. I do I know there's one of these things where this happens. You grab the picture, but the branch through the eye bothers me a little bit for competition. Yeah, real picky. But when you get to, I mean, this is a great picture. People are going to love it. Love it as gifts hanging on the wall. But something about competition, it's just little things that can bring out. And I know sometimes you don't have much of a choice to take the picture or not, you get what you get. If you would have moved, you'd have lost the scene. So as it's presented, I think it's very nice, and I'll give it an 8. But think about for the future, sometimes you have to look at an image and not enter it in competition because of things like that. Yeah, again, I think it's a great idea. The nose is out of focus, which I know happens with the length of the face, but it does tend to be a big soft spot now, and you can't pull your eye away from it. So again, for a poster, for gifts, for everybody, it's a very adorable image. I mean, look at that face. How do you not want to go over and hug that thing? But for competition, it's looked at a little differently, and just like I mentioned, the nose and the stick through the eye just holds it back from going higher.
Soaring seagull.
Nice capture. I love the highlighted on the bird. It really makes it stand out from the background. The building has a very surreal feel to it. If you look at the building on the left, you can't quite decide, is it concave or convex, which I think adds to the whole feel of the scene. I would like to maybe have seen a title that includes the building with it, because I think soaring, yes, the bird's soaring. Again, I'm just being real picky here, but in competition, that's what gets you the higher points, to just really be picky with things. But as far as seeing this, capturing this, the bird's nice and sharp and crisp, great exposure. Nicely done. I'll give this a 9. I'm glad there's not somebody in one of the windows up there looking down on the bird, because that would have been a little weird.
Sunflower explosion.
Very cool. Very cool. Just a great representation of sunflowers. Gosh, you know how many different sunflower pictures we see. A lot of them end up being the same thing. This is one of those that's just so different. I think the petal that's bent over at the top makes this whole thing work. Otherwise, it almost looks too perfect. Excuse me. Great capture. I mean, I get the feeling you probably saw this in your mind before you shot it, and that's what I like, is that kind of work. You know, this could be a great poster. It could be a great large print. Yeah, it was just very nicely done. I'll give this a 10. Very unique perspective.
Leopardess.
Wow, great intensity. Like, you don't know if you should stare back or turn and run. Really, really nice capture. I mean, I don't know how. I haven't done many wildlife to be able to know how you can get something that. I mean, this the crispness, the sharpness of this whole scene, color harmony. Even the tree is very color coordinated. Cool tones in the tree, the warm tones of the cat. You can't help but look into the eyes, and the blue sky just is a nice color harmony to bring you back into this. Even the pose just has a nice triangle feel to it. It's very comfortable. Just very well done. I'm going to have to give this a 10, I'm afraid. Good job.
Well, that's the end of the F16, and we have 7 10s.
Boy, I'm so glad I don't have to pick one of them like I used to have to do. Good work, everybody. Really nice.
This is Noxious Elegance by Ron Schaller.
Yes, I've been spending time closer to home, and there's an open space nearby, and been watching these plants over the course of the summer, and was kind of intrigued by these. I shot it at a low angle just to use the sky as a background, and then used a high key preset in Silver Effects, and then just tweaked it from there.
Good eye. I mean, it's a really well done art piece. You know, this would be a phenomenal large print.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Nice eye.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Nelson by Ron Cooper.
I was in northern Thailand last fall and found my way to a logging camp. And this gentleman was there with several of his friends, and they were sitting around a picnic table joking and actually playing cards. And I really wanted to make his photograph, and I approached him, introduced myself, and he consented. And when I got him situated in this really beautiful natural light, I couldn't get him to give me that smile that I had seen when I first encountered him playing cards with his friends. And I find in many instances, when people get in front of a camera, they become very serious.
Yeah.
But this intensity, when I finally got a chance to look at the images, I saw this intensity, which I found very appealing. And I really appreciate your comments about that, because I think that's what makes the picture. He's just, in a very direct way, looking right at us in a very, just a very straightforward pose. And you can just see his personality in his face and his eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also say that a lot of times when you get somebody who doesn't smile, you can feel a fear or an intimidation. But this guy looks very confident and very proud of his life, and it just really draws you in. So very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. This is Lines and Angles by Oz Fenninger.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this was taken in Oregon along the coast last winter, and three of us went for a walk, and I didn't take my camera along, and my wife had her cell phone, so I played with that some. And these are lines, as you said, that denote a parking place on the street, and the light part is a curve that's not very sharp, just a gradual angle.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And I just thought it was a fun abstract.
Absolutely. I like the eye. Good job.
So that's what I did.
Thanks, Oz.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This is Donnie Tribes Band in West Papua, also by Ron Cooper.
So I had a chance to visit a couple of communities where these Dani indigenous people live in the highlands of West Papua, which is on the west side of the island of Papua in Indonesia. It's on the opposite side of the island from Papua New Guinea. And it's absolutely the most remote place I've ever been. It took several days to get there, but it was really well worth it. I brought with me a black backdrop and a couple of portable mono lights. And I was really hoping that when I got there, the guide that I had hired to bring me up there would effectively help me convince the locals to have their portraits made. And the guide was fantastic. He spoke English, and he spoke the national language of Indonesia, as well as the local dialect that these people speak. And he had their confidence. And as a result, I was able to make a bunch of portraits of this community. And this is one of my favorites. These people had not seen Westerners until the 1960s. Wow. And at that time, there were a number of Western Christian missionaries who found their way into the central part of this island. But even today, they have relatively little contact with people from outside their community. And it was an absolutely fascinating place to go, and amazing, amazing people to meet.
Well, this is just stunning. I mean, coming from a portrait background as I have, wow. I could tell you my dad would absolutely be falling in love with this image. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Ron, do you send them their photo, or can they see what you've taken?
Well, it was fascinating because I was showing them on the back of my camera on the LCD screen. And subsequently, I had all of the portraits printed, and I had them sent to a contact that I had in Indonesia, who over a period of several months, was ultimately able to get them to this guide in the Ballium Valley. And the guide, who goes up to this community a couple of times a year, was to bring those pictures to these people. I have not heard back that he's done that, but it's only been 6 or so months. And so I'm hopeful that that will happen. I promised them I would do that, and I hope I can deliver on that.
That's pretty exciting, Ron. Good job. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron. This is Lunch with a Friend by Lee Ermey. Is Lee here tonight? Apparently not. I'll read, he has some notes. This was taken at 11 Mile Canyon on the edge of the South Platte River. Did not see the fly until I was in post-processing.
Oh, great.
An added bonus. Taken with my Nikon D500, used a Tamron 150 to 600 millimeter at F9 ISO 640 aperture priority.
Nicely done. Very nice.
Great. Well, we have Sunflower Explosion, also by Lee Ermey, taken this month on 120th Avenue east of Inboden Road. This particular sunflower spoke to me, and this is the result. Taken with the same Canon D500, same lens, f8, ISO 800 aperture priority. It's really nice.
Yeah, I really like that a lot.
Now this is the Leopardess by Butch Mazuka. Butch is here.
I'm not used to this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm doing it okay? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we had, this was the prettiest leopard that we saw in Botswana. Was there for 3 weeks. Our guide spotted her. She was a good distance away. I was using a big, I think I was using a 400 with a teleconverter. And that's actually HDR. I couldn't believe how still that cat could stay.
Wow.
I saw it. The trees in the forest were such a color. They were fantastic. And it just occurred to me to start shooting some HDR. And then we saw her, and I just continued doing so. But anyway, thanks for your comments.
Yeah, nice job. I love this a lot. This is outstanding. Outstanding.
Thanks, Butch. Say, Jeff, I wanted to ask you about titling our images.
Sure.
I've heard some people say they title them with kind of an emotional response that an image may create in the photographer. I get the other thing is trying to describe the image itself. You were talking about that soaring seagull at the building, adding the comment about the building in the title.
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, keep in mind, this is just how I see it. I mean, I was raised in this business. My dad was phenomenal at titling, and it was more of a storytelling. There's actually two ways of looking at it. You're either telling the story or you're evoking something in the viewer to tell their own story. But when you have an image of, you know, a beautiful image of a steam train coming through the woods, and you call it steam train or locomotive, it's just, yeah, we know that. But when you call it something like the 505 or, you know, watch out for the bandits, or, you know, I mean, you're telling stories. It pulls the viewer in to the story and lets them take ownership of the image. I can tell you that that will help sell your images a lot faster when the viewer has to, and then just referring to the one with the bird and the building in the background. I do love the image, but the title was more just about the bird. But if there was some tie-in with the building, and I don't have anything offhand to show as an example. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just think if you tie in a story or start a story so the viewer can build their own story from your title, I think it makes the viewer takes ownership of the image. And that's huge in judging. When we're sitting on a panel, so when I judge for the Professional Towers of America, there's 5 of us on the panel. So we have 5 different brains going at the same time. And if you're a maker and you put an image out there and it has a title that tells a story, you can watch these judges lean in to hear the rest of the story. You've just grabbed them. They're going to give you more points. But by sometimes just naming it, train on the tracks on a Tuesday afternoon, it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that was good. So, again, this is just how I've learned. But I think when you look at your image, and I know Cliff is in the audience here, he'll agree because he's been around the PPA stuff for a long time. You tell a story with your image, you get your viewer hooked. And more so, you have your images hanging in a gallery, and you get a viewer walking in, and they look at the image, and they read the title, and they buy into it. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to hand you money. And they're going to hang it on their wall. They're going to tell everybody about this great story of the last time we went up into the woods and hiked. We saw this creek, and look at I'm looking at the picture of mine on Larry's wall back there. It's telling that story and pulling the viewer in that sells the image, gets you higher scores, is more interesting. And I know there's people that'll totally disagree with that. Not in this group. You guys are all smart. But I mean, I've heard people talk about, they'll have displays, gallery shows where it'll be, untitled number 1, untitled number 2. And the reason there is they're letting the viewer make their own story. That's fine. I just want to start the story. I just want to get you hooked. And I know that when I can get somebody hooked in an image, the next thing they do is they reach for their wallet. Why not, right?
What if, like a soaring eagle, if you said freedom?
Yeah, exactly. It's just little things like that. It can be one word. It can be just a couple of words that really can totally take the viewer's mind into a whole other direction than just saying, bird in the air.
Yeah, we lost you a little bit there, JJ.
All I was saying is that to take an image and add a story to it by a title will take you so much further in competition and sales than just calling it, flying bird or, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I always have, when I listen to music or watch a movie or something, if I hear a phrase or something that clicks, I've got my notebook. I've got pages and pages of 2 and 3 word ideas, titles, thoughts, and I will refer to that. I know Cliff and I have talked about this many times, and refer to just things that you've heard in songs or in movies that make great titles. And the idea again there is to get the viewer to get to dive into the scene and own it. That's the whole idea there.
Okay, well, will you be in Illinois for a while? Where should we send your check?
I'll be back. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what day this is. What is this? This is Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I'll be back there by next Tuesday.
Oh, I didn't know if we should hold your check for a while, or I think Ron Schuller sends a check out. We could send it to your.
I put my mail on hold. You can send it.
It's been sent.
Oh, thanks, Ron.
Oh, okay.
You bet.
Very cool. I put a mail hold when I leave. So
the check's in the mail.
Gotta love that one.
I thought
I have a question for you.
Oh, Nancy has a question. Hold on. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. on your comments about the horizon and so forth,
Okay.
I understand that and I agree by and large, but I have seen over the years some pictures where what appeared to be the horizon was not the horizon and was not level. And one that comes to mind is one of the lakes in Yellowstone that Ansel Adams photographed. And it looks unlevel because it disappears into the distance. And so you can't always go by what it actually looks like in the picture.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Nancy. Thanks for bringing that up, because you will have receding lines. You'll have a shoreline that goes away from us. And, of course, as I do it to you, it looks like it's but, yeah, so you'll have uneven receding lines, and that's true. This particular picture that I was referring to tonight, the horizon appeared to be left to right, and it had a tip. Now, one guy's opinion, right or wrong, I don't know. It's just, that's the thing you get when you have one judge. The next judge might say it differently. To me, it didn't feel natural. It felt like it was just kind of going like this. Again, I don't mean to be picky, but let me put this in your mind. All the years I've been with PPA and judging, we had a scoring system from 65 to 100. 80 was a cutoff that gave us a merit of distinction. It gave us a merit that we could put towards a degree, a Master of Photography degree. And everybody would always say, I just want an 80. All I want is an 80. That's not too much to ask. But if you don't get an 80, you get a 79. My dad always told me, want 100. Want 100. Because if you miss 100, you get a 98. I'll take that. But what it does, it doesn't make you overcritical. It doesn't make you ridiculously unsuspecting and whatever. It just makes you shoot higher. And I know Cliff and I have had this conversation many times about PPA competition. And it's the little tiny things, like I talked about the one bird, the one hummingbird. There was a little bit of flower poking up. I'll go on my frame right here. There was a little purple flower poking up right at the edge. Sounds really picky. There was a little bit of white. And whoever it is, I apologize. I'm not trying to use it as a bad thing. But just little things like that pull your eye away from what you want the viewer to look at. And that little horizon line was just tipped, and to me, it seemed like it should have been. Again, it's not an argument, it's something like that. But if it doesn't seem natural, yes, if I'm looking upstream and the riverbank is going away from me and it's going uphill, that's a natural thing. To me, in that particular image, it looked like it should have been looking across the water. And so, again, my opinion. Good point, though. That's the problem. Is you get one guy to come in and judge you. You got to go with what he says. That's the rule, right, Cliff?
That's the rule. You're absolutely right.
It wasn't mine, by the way.
Yeah, no, I didn't figure it would be. And again, it's hard because you got one guy's opinion, and educated or not, long time opinion or not, it's still just one person's opinion. And because I gave, I would always like to, this would be hard to do, but let's say in 6 months, I looked at the same set of prints again today that we just judged. I bet my scores would be a little different. I mean, it depends on how I feel. It depends on what I ate. It depends on what subject matter is important to me at that time. I mean, there's a lot of things. I'll look at that maybe I scored very low on. Look, wow, why'd they give me that? And vice versa. There's been some images I've gotten a high score on. I look at it and go, really? Okay. So we're artists. Everything changes, everything. So all I'm trying to do is just to get you to just, I hate to use the word picky, but fine-tuning your craft and the little things that I've learned in composition over the years, and you take those little things out or whatever it is. It just makes things just a little better and a little better and a little better. Before you know it, you're practicing these really fine-tuning composition elements, things like that just make your work that much better. So that's all I want to do is make you guys more better. I got it in.
A good tip, JJ. I think maybe we'll ask the judges before we start. How would you score yourself as an emotional factor?
Wow.
Are you a 7 or a 3? So we can.
Well, I mean, kiddingly, but seriously, I always like to think of my emotional factor when I'm judging as a 10, and I mean it as a positive way. I mean it as it's not like, oh, I'm the best and whatever I say goes. No, you know, you guys know me. I'm not like that at all. But having said that, I want to be encouraging. I want you guys to keep going out and shooting. And I know there's a lot of people that don't enter competitions. I know of a couple of gals that entered years ago and will not enter again because they had a bad score. If I may tell you a really quick story, the first time I ever entered, we're going back to 19, and it was a picture. At the time, it was a girl that I was dating, so you can see how long ago it was, and her mother. And I was learning, so my dad had a lot. For those of you who don't know me that well, I grew up in the portrait world. My dad was a master photographer, phenomenal portrait artist. And he kind of did it. Let's put it that way. All right. I pushed the button on the shutter, but he kind of posed it, light it. We had the dark room. We went in the dark room. All that stuff. So when it came up in competition the first time, 80 is the number we all strive for. That's the merit, as I was mentioning. And it came up and it got an 84. And I thought, yeah, look at this. I mean, I was nervous as all heck, but it got an 84. And I thought I could do this. No big deal, right? So 6-8 months go by. I decided to enter another print, and it was a couple that I had photographed, so a couple of good friends of mine that were engagement picture. And Dad kind of backed off and let me crop it, print it. We used to set up the lights in our camera room so we could judge it the same way at PPA. And he had some suggestions. Print competition came along. I'm standing in the back of the room, and I'm kind of like, I got this, Print comes up, it's dead quiet. My heart's racing. Score 65. That's the bottom of the barrel, by the way, 65. It's actually classified as below professional standards. Of course, you're supposed to not say anything, and I was about like, what? Why? Well, one of the judges came up to me afterwards, and I asked him, I said, tell me why? We want to learn. And he looked at me, he goes, well, and he wasn't being a smart aleck. He was very honest. He had a smile on his face. He says, okay, what I want you to do is to realize that everything you shouldn't do in a portrait, you did in one portrait. So I set that print by the darkroom door for the rest of it. I don't care how many more years. That print was right there in front of me to learn, oh yeah, there's that stick coming across the face. Oh yeah, there's that bright spot in the sky. Everything that you shouldn't do in a portrait, I was able to capture in one portrait. So I took that as being, I could either quit and go get a job shoveling something, or I could learn from that one print and move forward. And then that's what I chose to do. So the print competition is huge. You got to listen to everybody's point of view and take it with a grain of salt. But I think you can learn a lot. Just little things can make your quality go higher and higher and higher. So I'll shut up now.
Well, you should have scored high. There probably isn't anybody else who could put everything you should not do into one picture.
That's what I mean. Should have been 100 for that alone.
Have 100 for that.
Yep.
Well, I don't have anything else. Do you have any other comments, JJ, before we?
Well, as usual, I'm impressed with the work. And I've said this before, it's always fun to do judging for your group because you're all a bunch of good photographers, and it gives me ideas. It's fun to see some different things. I've gone out and tried some things that I've seen from pictures you guys have done just to do some different things. And just keep learning. I mean, you never get to the top of this craft. You're always going to learn. So keep learning, keep doing things. There's a lot of online stuff, a lot of workshops to do, but never put your camera down and think you know it all. The minute you do that, you need to go do something else. You need to pick up a basketball and do that instead.
Well, thanks for being with us tonight, JJ, and for filling in at the last minute with
my pleasure
helping us critique our photos. Thank you.
My pleasure. And all of you, feel free to connect with me if you have questions about your pictures. JJ at Soul Images Gallery. It's SOUL Images Gallery. If you have any questions about an image, send it to me. I'm happy to chat more with you about it. I love doing this stuff and happy to help. So thank you, everybody, for listening to me tonight. Appreciate
it. Thanks, JJ.
Thank you.
I want to mention thank you to Ron Cooper. We Are Santa. We got to look for that book and help the Children's Hospital. It's a great project. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Dave, do you have any sign-off comments?
Well, not really, Larry. I just wanted to express my thanks to Jeff for kind of pitching in, as you mentioned, at the last minute, and especially now that he's on the road, he's got a lot on his plate. So I always enjoy Jeff's comments and his critique. And tonight we got a little bit more of a bonus there at the end. But I just wanted to say thank you very much, Jeff, and safe travels.
My pleasure, Dave. Thanks for asking me. I appreciate you guys thinking of me. Anytime I can help, that's what I mean. Anytime you guys have a question, don't hesitate to send it to me. I'll do my best to answer it.
Thank you, Bob, for getting everything organized well tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we could sign off. Bob or Dave, you do the sign off.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
Night, Mary Ellen.
Adios.